I do that?
Greetings guys and gals. I've been meaning to do this video for a long time and I have finally gotten down to business. The main purpose of this video is to bring this concept to a larger audience with more people scratching their heads over how to further improve this build. I'm gonna talk about my experience with the items I had available way back in the 2.4 PDR, which were by no means optimized and did not tap into this build's full potential. Stat points are pretty straightforward, as with almost any Diablo 2 build. You just need enough strength and dexterity to be able to equip your gear. Your mileage may vary depending on your preferred armor pieces and of course their availability. Since the best sword pieces are pretty much up to debate, I'm not going to dwell too much on the point of stat allocation. As usual, the rest of the stat points go into vitality. Shifting the focus to the skills now, you should invest at least one skill point into the passive skill magic tree. There is a case to be made for spending more points into penetrate if you really seem to be lacking on hit chance. For my Uber run, I actually had 2 or 3 points invested into Impale, so if you decide to specialize for Ubers, I suggest you max out the skill for better results, since this will be your main ability when fighting them, mainly because it always hits just like the Paladin Smite. I really enjoyed playing around with maxed out Fend, because I was able to dispatch larger groups of enemies surprisingly quick. The skill is finally fixed and it makes for some interesting gameplay moments. The rest of the points went to Poison and Plague Javelin, which help out when fighting against physical immunities. There are other tools in your arsenal that help out with this as well, which I will discuss a bit later. For your main weapons, I suggest Titan's Revenge, ideally ethereal. The reason I went with Titan's Revenge and not a two-handed spear, although you could very well try this as well, is because Impale breaks down your weapon and the replenish quantity bonus on the Titan's Revenge mitigates that completely. This is crucial when fighting bosses, because you don't want your weapon to break down halfway through the fight, forcing you to return to town for repairs, giving ample time for the boss to heal. Spears have a low durability, so unless they are indestructible, you will be forced to repair them often. Another point I want to make is that 2.4 buffed the throw weapon quantities, so Titan's Revenge actually got buffed because of that. For the shield sword, I tried the Phoenix Runewood for that extra enhanced damage. I used Storm Shield only for running Ubers because of the excellent defensive bonuses it provides, and on my swap I had a Thunderstroke alongside Dream as a source for extra lightning damage if I happen to encounter a both physical and poison immune enemy. As for armor, the current items you see on the screen are the ones that I used to kill the Ubbers with. Draco's Grasp is perhaps the quintessential item because it allows you to survive in melee. I would not suggest you use a different pair of gloves, to be honest. T-Gods is great all around because it provides with a good stat boost, also saves us from investing skill points into Lightning Fury and Lightning Strike, and of course that much needed maximum lightning resistance for our Tristram. Treachery is mainly used to proc Fade before jumping into our Tristram to further counter Mephisto's Conviction Aura. If you don't mind the repair cost, I suggest making Chains of Honor and an Archon Plate or a Great Halberd, since you already have enough strength for them. Otherwise go with whatever armor you have available and think it would best suit your needs. Not much to say about Gore Rider. This is your source of crushing blow and open wounds, which, as you probably know, are really important for boss fights. Crown of Ages seems really demanding in the strength department, but its defensive capabilities are undeniable, especially with 2 open sockets that you could put 2 15% increased attack speed duels, or the rarest one in my opinion, 15% attack speed with 15 to all resistance duels. Or you could also think about putting a charm rune in it, because that would allow you to remove Ravenfrost and use a different ring instead. Moving on to the ring sword, Wisp Projector is, I believe, a must for Oba Mephisto. Otherwise you should aim for something with dual leech and some resistances, and that Ravenfrost for the essential cannot be frozen if you do not have a charm rune to put in your Crown of Ages, as discussed earlier. The main reason I went with Highwood's Wrath is because of the additional attack speed. Beyond that, Cat's Eye is probably a good alternative, and of course Mara's or anything that could provide boost to skills and resistances. But I really like the attack speed increase because Impale really benefits from that stat, since that skill by default is really slow. I do not wish to commit to suggesting a must-have for charms, besides Jaren skills perhaps. I did my Uber run without a Hellfire Torch and without an Annihilus, which would have made the run and the gearing way easier. Besides that, use charms to make up for your weaker spots. During my test run, I went for the Cold Rogue, so I could get yet another damage type in order to counter various monster immunities. I tried out different item setups, including the new Runeward Mist, which provides concentration aura and a 100% chance to pierce that gives the Cold Rogue a really good crowd control. Concentration really works better when using Fend, so you don't get interrupted in the middle of your attacks. But Faith is also worth considering because of the attack speed increase by Fanaticism, and also because Impale is an uninterruptible skill by default. So by that logic, Fanaticism is the aura to choose from if you are going to be concentrating more on using Impale compared to Fend. The Act 2 Merc with Might Aura is also a solid option, but I don't suggest using Reaper's Stall because the Gripify is going to override your wife tap, which might create unpleasant scenarios. Bright might be the preferred option here. And now I'm just gonna list some of the potential items you could also consider for this build. Bottom 9, it all depends on your budget and game style. G-Face is always a solid choice because of its offensive stats, and the same applies for Andario's Visage. Goblin Tail is essentially the poor man's Gore Rider. Thringovias is decent for increasing your survivability in melee because of the damage reduction and the lifesteal it provides. Spirit Shield is the placeholder shield until you find a more expensive option. The run speed from Cat's Eye Amulet is not to be underestimated, since you won't be teleporting around and you still need to be able to keep up with your allies and multiplayer games. Lastly, I want to mention that playing with Breath of the Dying feels amazing because of the enormous reach you have with spears. I just wish this build worked better with two-handed weapons instead of one-handed ones. And finally, some words about the gameplay style. I'd say it is somewhat varied for D2. In regular PvM, I open up with Plague Javelin and finish off the bad guys with Fend. In the case of a physical immune plus poison immune enemy, I switch to my Thunderstruck plus Dream. I constantly use Decoy and Valkyrie as meat shields, and swarm missiles when fighting a nasty pack of ranged enemies. Impale is mostly reserved for particularly powerful elites and bosses, because the added swell of the skill further boosts your survivability. My most favorite thing about this build is that you can actually deal with every single challenge that the game throws at you, and I stress on every single challenge, even viewers, even cows, I guess, everything. You can just solo the whole game from start to finish. The most difficult Uber, hands down for me, was Mephisto. I probably died over, 20 or 30 times to him. Diablo and Bale are pretty easy once you split them up. And with that said, I will present you with some footage of me dying miserably in Uber Tristram. Enjoy!
Good riddance, freak.